You're listening to Chicago Stories, a new podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans as told to Mayor Rahm Emanuel.
This is Mayor Rahm Emanuel on Chicago Stories. We're here with Shaniqua Davis, known as Shawn. You should probably explain to people why I said A.K. Shawn, to tell the story.
Yeah, so born and raised as Shaniqua Davis, and as I grew up over life, I quickly realized something that my mom used to always say. She used to always say, "I am so sorry that I named you Shaniqua." And I used to laugh at her like, why? Like, it's okay. I love my name. It's okay. I'm going to be proud of this regardless of, what people think.
You always felt that way?
I've always felt that way.
That's interesting because that is not how I always felt about Rahm.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just always been a you're going to get whatever I give you type of person, So growing up, I've kind of always embraced my name. But as I started to graduate from college, or at least started preparing to graduate from college, and I started applying for jobs, I started receiving some pushback around my name. And I'm like, no, people wouldn't do that. Why would people try to, cut me out because of my name? My qualifications are there.
Where'd you go to school so everybody knows?
Yeah, I went to Michigan State University, and my degree is in information technology and media. So I've always been developing websites, ripping things apart, and putting them back together, trying to figure out how to make
So we got tons of people that want we got companies at every level want somebody with your skill set. Yeah. And you're getting ripped up letters.
Like, I've got everything you're looking for right here. What's the problem? Uh-huh. So I received a few different positions, but what I found was that I was always being pushed into different positions, they were okay, but I knew I deserved better. And I'm like, what do I need to do to get into these better positions? So I started networking, and at this time I was still in Detroit. That's where I'm from.
We here refer to it as détour.
It's a new
okay. We go to the original French Indian term. It's a new marketing term.
Okay. So back in détour, the startup scene was starting to slowly emerge, but as I tried to get as heavily involved in the scene as possible, it just wasn't where I needed it to be. So I was networking with different people, and people would be saying, like, why don't you just go to Chicago?
Come home.
Yes.
Come to your mother's arms.
Yes. So Chicago is my second home. So when that came up, I started researching it. I was attending different networking events in Chicago on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Like, I was literally driving from Detroit to Chicago just to be a part of.
Really? So you drove that Wednesday and Thursdays?
Yeah, I would look up different opportunities. It would be like, there's a networking event at Rock Bottom. Okay, I don't know what that is, but it looks fun, so I need to be there. I would drive and take off and be in Chicago, and I would hang out with a few friends and say, hey, there's a networking event in Chicago. I'm going to crash on your couch, and I'm going back home tomorrow. So after connecting with a few different people, I was like, you know what? I'm making this trip enough. I need to be where I want to be.
Yeah, you're fully funding the Saudi Arabian government with all the oil you get.
Exactly. So I was like, I need to make this move. Eventually, I started applying to different jobs around the city, and the first job that reached out to me was a local startup, and they said, we want you, come out. And at the time, it was an account executive position, but I knew my passion was in technology, but no technology positions would contact me back. So I'm like, okay, I'll do sales just to get my foot in the door and get around Chicago.
Show them what you got. Show them your game.
So I worked there, and then I attended different technology events and connected with everybody. And they told me, like, have you ever considered changing your name? And I was like, why? Why would I have to do that? I don't think that's something I have to do. So I'm like, I'll consider it. So I did a test. I applied to a few positions, some with the name Shaun and some with the name Shaniqua. Usually when I apply under Shaniqua, the rejection usually follow. And then when I applied under Shaun, the interest and the response rate was so much greater.
Yeah.
So it would be like, hey, we would love to meet you and have you come in. And using the name Shaun, it worked in two ways for me. One, it was gender neutral. So
True.
You don't know if I'm a guy or a girl. And two, it kind of erases the ethnic bias behind it. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't consciously realize that you're participating in unconscious bias, choosing that name made it easier for them to kind of
in another life, I'm going to be a book agent, and you're writing a book.
Okay.
You got a book in you. Okay?
I'm thinking about it. That's on my list of things to do.
No, but you have this whole experience. You have a book in there.
I'm thinking about it. I said this is my 7th chapter.
Now, let me ask you, do you find, I don't mean to skip to it, but do you find the Chicago community more receptive? That's not to be critical of anything of Detroit, but how do you find the Chicago tech community now that you're kind of in it and part of it? And then what does Noirefy do?
So I think that the tech community here in Chicago is amazing. From the time I was making those long trips from Detroit to Chicago, I was welcomed with warm arms. They were like, why aren't you here? You need to be a part of this. Check out this organization. And I was participating and helping any way that I could, really having the opportunity to participate in all of these tech events, networking. It helped me realize that this was something I could move forward with and start my own technology company. And I can also take my experience and use that to help other people. I'm a part of several different organizations around the country, a few specifically in Chicago that work with minority professionals and women in technology. And within these groups, we all share the same kind of, it was like the same cycle. It was like, hey, my job is hiring. Is there anyone looking for a position? Or, hey, I'm ready to move on to this new position. Are you aware of any certifications, classes, or anything? And it was just something that pinged in my head where I said there needs to be a platform where people can kind of collectively work together.
And that's what the company does?
Yep, that's what we do. So we work to connect diverse talent, specifically from underrepresented backgrounds. So African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, and women to corporations around the world. And we work off of the power of referrals.
All right, so you got to do one thing with me.
Okay.
We got a date.
Okay.
Here it is. So last year I went to U of I, Stanford, MIT, and Harvard to speak to the business schools, engineering schools, and recruit, and I brought companies with me. Coming up year, we're going to do the same with Carnegie Mellon, Purdue, etc. But I wanted to go to a historically black college.
Okay.
And to recruit the kids that are graduating that are interested in tech, science, anything that we would normally call STEM, to come to Chicago as part of their future.
I would love to be a part of that.
We do come, and I bring CEOs. So we're going to work on a date starting in the fall. We're going to start looking up. We got about 4 more trips in me for next year. I'm thinking the school year, not the calendar year. And we're going to bring executives. And I want you on other company trips, meaning the Purdue's, et cetera. But I'm going to bring a series of leaders and we're going to go to a historically black college, and I want you to come and be part of the CEO entrepreneur recruitment.
I would love that. And I think that is a great opportunity to expose the tech community in Chicago and make that outreach to those HBCUs. I'm currently trying to form partnerships with HBCUs around the country. And the one thing that they say is that we want to get our people to Chicago, help us get there. So I think this would be a great idea.
Do you find it hard to link into the corporate community? So where's the trouble for you, or challenge? Not trouble's not the right word. You got 2 ends you're trying to introduce, right? Mm-hmm. The corporate or business community, we'll just not say corporate so it doesn't sound like it's Fortune 1. The business community and the folks with skill sets and getting them a dating match, basically. So what are the challenges on either side of that bell curve?
I think the biggest challenge for me thus far has been accessing the funding needed to promote and kind of reach these businesses. So far, you may not, or you may know, women and specifically minority women are below the 1% of people who receive funding.
You mean from the venture capital world?
Yes. So from the venture capitalists, and that has been a struggle because there are a lot of companies reaching out to me. That is one thing I haven't had an issue with. The issue comes in when trying to keep up with the demand of the things that they are expecting. And in order to produce the things that they are expecting, I need to be able to expand and move at a more scalable rate. However, when it comes to actually receiving funding, there are things that venture capitalists expect that I, as an early stage startup, I'm not able to produce. So some other routes that I've taken to get around that little obstacle there has been to focus more on strategic partnerships and working with HBCUs, colleges, and alumni networks, municipal organizations around the different cities in the country to kind of expand our presence and start to connect more of our members to the companies and the things that they can offer.
Is it? Did you ever think of yourself as an entrepreneur?
Oh, yeah. I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. There are
Really?
two things I knew in life. I love technology, and I knew I wanted to be the boss.
Where did you learn that you love technology? Because I got Jewish motor skills, man. Where does this thing turn on? How? Yeah. I call the kids down, and there's a remote control. What? Get this thing on.
I was just always fascinated at, how things work. Growing up, we would get things, all these new technology. I mean, I was a part of the technology wave. So I was there when computers first came out, when they started transforming. We went from AOL to high-speed internet. And I was just always curious, like, how are we able to connect with so many people? How am I able to connect with people in Florida and I'm in Detroit? I need to find out how I can connect with more people. So I started off with doing media where I would be in front of the cameras. Then I was like, I don't want to be in front of the cameras. I want to be behind the cameras telling people what to do. So,
really?
Yeah. So I always wanted to be a part of the people who were able to make the decisions.
I'm listening to you. You have I don't know about on the camera, but you definitely have a personality that I wouldn't put behind the camera.
I think it's cool to be in front of the camera. I don't have a problem with talking to people. In fact, I enjoy talking to the youth around the city, back home and here. Like when I get the opportunity to share my story, because I don't feel like I have the most traditional story. Like, hey, I graduated from high school and went straight to college and had all these internships and now I'm an entrepreneur.
So let me ask you a question. So you always wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
African-American woman, start up, different city from then home. Who are your mentors? Give me kind of the milestones in your life that you think are kind of the most important things that shaped you to be where you are today. Because whether it's Shaniqua or Shawn or however, you're breaking a mold on a lot of different levels.
Yeah.
So to the people that are kind of listening in, what do you think were some of the milestones? Because we're doing this interview in the atmosphere of just what blew up at Google, with the one guy writing an email or a memo. So where do you think, what were the inflection points? If you're a parent today and your kids are showing some acumen like you did for technology, and as you're right, I have this view, kids can never be what they can't see.
Right.
So give me along your development, what were the milestones that you think were inflection points that got you to where you are today?
I think it's funny that you mentioned if I were a parent, because I am. So
you are a parent.
I am.
That's impossible, man.
I am
I'm looking at you. You are not a parent.
I am. This is where.
About how old is the baby?
My daughter is 8. So I had her when I was 18 years old. So I like to tell people that ever since I was an adult, I've been a parent. And that helped shape all of my decisions and helped push me more and more. So like usually each place I go, my daughter is with me. Like she goes to networking events with me here in Chicago. If you go up to her, she will shake your hand and go up to you and say, hey, it's nice to meet you. My name is Mackenzie.
Mackenzie?
Her name is Mackenzie.
Guilty as charged, man.
Definitely guilty as charged.
You have been there. We're not gonna screw you up this bad.
No, we're gonna make sure that you're straight. Yeah. So
now let me ask you, when you keep going, because I cut you off. I have another question, but go.
I was just going to say that having her, my routine throughout college, she was with me while I was at Michigan State. So my routine was pretty much set in stone. I knew I had to go to class. I knew I had to take her to daycare. I knew I had to go to internships. In between that, pick her up, go to class, and start the day all over again. However, in between that, I feel like I developed a schedule that I was running on my own. And in order to get to where I needed to be, I had to craft this. And I feel like that mentality keeps me going to this day. Like, I know that in order for my startup or anything else I do to grow, and whoever it needs to reach, I have to be on that schedule and continue to work harder and harder each day. I want to say that milestone,
becoming a mother,
was like the biggest learning experience of my life, and it has helped me tremendously. And I don't want to say that as if I'm like trying to promote teen pregnancy and things like that.
Don't worry, that's not what you're promoting.
Yeah, I just wanted to use that to say that there is no obstacle. Like, everything I thought I couldn't get through in life, I got through. And that's it. As an entrepreneur, you have to understand that not everything is going to be great. You have to understand that there are obstacles going to come your way, and you have to be agile enough to know that you need to be able to get around it. And I think that having that experience, having all those things thrown at me, I think right now there is nothing that could stop me. So I continue to work hard every day.
I don't think I got a follow-up, man. Well, except for I like how Shaniqua became McKinsey. We're not gonna burden anybody with anything.
Nope, we gotta switch it up.
So, all undergraduate. She's with you through Michigan State. Mm-hmm. You're driving back and forth. What do you do with her when you're driving back and forth?
Luckily, my mother is very supportive. Mm-hmm. Originally, she didn't understand why I needed to drive to Chicago for a networking event when I could attend a networking event in Detroit. Mm-hmm. I just told her to stick with me. Mm-hmm. It's going to work out. So my mother has been very supportive with helping me and my daughter and continue to make sure.
This is none of my business, but it's my podcast, so I'm doing this. Okay,
go ahead.
Where do you live?
I live in the North Center area.
Uh-huh. And where she go to school?
She goes to Bateman Elementary School.
Yeah. Very good school.
Yeah, so she's there. She's had a very positive experience since she's been here in Chicago. She's learned a lot, learned so much. She's different from me though. Like I love technology and she loves arts. Yeah, it's an interesting perspective because I hate arts. Like if I have to sit down and design things, like I just want to figure out how it works.
Do you find your 1871 helpful? What would you do what's your advice to not just the mayor, but people in public policy as it relates to entrepreneurship culture here in Chicago, the 1871? We're at a different point than we were 5 years ago. What do you think we should do as a young entrepreneur, not just a woman of color who's an CEO?
Like as, the resources that 1871 provides to like a young entrepreneur, or as like the tech community?
It was broad enough. You answer whatever question you want. Rule 1 when you're running for office, you got an answer. Right. Doesn't matter what the question. It doesn't really matter what I was asking you.
All right. Well, first I want to start off with 1871. 1871 was actually the first networking event I've ever attended in Chicago, and they had just opened up not too long before I started attending. And I think the 1871 community is amazing. The resources, the community, the mentorship and advisory that is available here, I've never been able to have access to that anywhere else. And on top of that, providing the at-will resources. If you reach out to an advisor and schedule an appointment with people, they just want to offer you their time. They don't want to get something from you. They literally just want to give you resources to help you continue to grow. I also think that with programs like Wisdom and other programs geared at helping people from underrepresented backgrounds continue to develop their skills, I think that is vital to the tech community. What the tech community in Chicago can do in general is to continue to offer these resources to help people who are interested in not only entrepreneurship, but interested in advancing their technology skills. Mm-hmm. What I think will happen from that is you will see more businesses continue to scale and grow. And I also think that you will get a more diverse talent pool from different backgrounds, from different viewpoints, things that will continue to consistently grow. And that's the technology space.
Well, I mean, this didn't exist before. And we now have one in manufacturing, M-Hub. We have one just for water research, Current. And we have one called Matter just for healthcare companies just down the hall, as you know.
It's amazing.
Do you ever think about your platform and kind of breaking out for different segments of the economy?
Yeah, so we're industry agnostic. So I don't want to say that we're specifically only geared towards helping tech companies. We are interested in helping all industries globally really understand why they need to bring in diverse candidates into their companies. And when I say diverse candidates, you have to understand that diversity means so many different things to so many different people. So as we continue to grow and we continue to expand, we're implementing machine learning into our platform so we can understand the behaviors of our candidates and understand the behaviors of our companies on our platform and what they really need. So what we want to do across the board is we want to help bring in more minorities. We want to bring in more women, more people with disabilities, veterans, all that to just shape and level what the playing field looks like for all people all over the place.
How's it going?
Going good. It's going good. So Since launching our platform, we have scaled very quickly. When I came up with the idea, I was like, this is a company that needs to exist. I knew it was important to me. I didn't think it would be as important to everybody else. And what I found is that the companies I'm working with right now, they are reaching out to me and they say, I am so glad that this platform is here because I have no clue how to reach diverse candidates. And originally, the platform was for the members.
It's so interesting. If you haven't read it, there's a great book, Hillbilly Elegy.
I haven't.
Okay, well, the author's got some notoriety right now. Grows up Appalachian, Ohio, family back and forth from Kentucky. Anyway, short of it, the reason I say that is there's a section, he ends up going to Ivy League school. But there is a section all about that hidden network. And I don't think that's accident. My kids basically grew up around that network and how to network. I'll just give you an example. Like last night, I was having drinks with the CEO of, or former CEO of Whole Foods, who's been instrumental in what we're trying to do here in Chicago. And I said, well, why don't you just come to he was in town, and didn't have a dinner. I said, well, we were having drinks. I said, come on to dinner with us, and I'm going to have dinner with my family. And it was my niece's birthday. So we go to dinner. My son goes to UCLA. He had to write a paper about Whole Foods, and they're having this whole dinner conversation. And he says, send me your paper, da-da-da. But I'm saying is, my son's ability to have a conversation, he grew up around this. There's a and then Walter says, well, stay in touch. Here's the email, et cetera, et cetera. There is a whole inherent transferable through both your DNA and your social network, what are called soft skills, but a network and how to use that network, that unless you're part of it, it has real barriers, and unless you have what you're doing, people don't have access to it.
Exactly. That's exactly why.
And why somebody on the other side, I don't mean to cut you off, would say, well, I don't know how to access this, because we live in parallel worlds.
That's true.
And it's and your deal's like bridging that divide.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. And to piggyback off of what you said, if you don't have access to the network, you can miss out on a lot of opportunities that you didn't even know were available to you.
How come people like at the historically black colleges don't know about your network? What do you think you got to do to get? I mean, you would think that it would be perfectly situated for people that are just getting up, got that senioritis, like, I got to do my own laundry. So
why don't they know about it?
Yeah, because you said earlier, the corporate side sounds less of the problem. It's kind of...
Yeah, I think it's on the member side. I think people understand the benefits of advancing your network. I think sometimes people don't really know how to get out of their network. I think once people start to find out about platforms like mine, where you have the opportunity to connect with people all over and connect with different resources and really, really get involved with different communities and places, you have the opportunity to advance that network.
I want to make sure you're part of what we're doing, not just because your daughter goes to CPS, but what we're doing at like Michelle Clark and Sarah Good, IBM, Cisco schools that go 9th to 14th grade, just in technology.
Awesome. I would love to be a part of that.
This is Mayor Rahm Emanuel, Chicago Stories, and we're with Shaniqua, Shawn Davis. Noirefy?
Noirefy.
Oh, Noirefy. Did I put an L in there?
Yeah.
I apologize.
It's okay. We'll be flat.
Mother of Mackenzie.
Yeah.
I love that story, man. I'm really, we have a whole nother interview about being a parent. That's impressive what you did. I was like sitting here listening to you, and I was like, my whining about my Hegel and Kant paper in college. To have a child and do what you did is really impressive.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Chicago Stories, a new podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans as told to Mayor Rahm Emanuel.